It's showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
The absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
That's awesome. Oh, guys, man, it's been a day. Some tech issues, lots of tech issues. We're not on Twitch today because of said tech issues. A lot of issues going on altogether, but hey, we're here. It's the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal, and of course, it wouldn't be the pre-party without major tech issues, right? So, here it is. We are here, and we're here to talk NWA. We're here to talk NWA POWERRR with you. A lot of matches coming up tonight. A lot of misinformation. You guys notice that you have what Fight puts out in press releases, plus what the talent shares on social media, plus what Joe Galli, the voice of the NWA, tends to share on social media, and you get this weird dichotomy of what's really going to happen and what isn't. And it's really hard to figure that out, right? Because if Fight tells you that Aaron Stevens is going to wrestle against PJ Hawk, then why does everything I see make it look like that Sal Rinauro is going to wrestle PJ Hawk? And then I see Colby Corino is going to make his debut on Power, but then when is he wrestling? It looked like he was going to wrestle Sauronaro, but then you see PJ Hawk in the back. So you never really know for sure what you're going to get here with the National Wrestling Alliance. You never know for sure what you're going to get in terms of the program. And all we can hope for is a good show. That's all we want, is a good show. You know, we want some talented wrestling. Sure, we want some promos, but we don't want the entire thing to be all promos, right? We want some wrestling. We want some storytelling. What do you guys want in wrestling? I see that you guys were quick to tell me I was on mute. Sorry about that. But I see Will the Goblin in the house. Sean Mega's here. Terry McDermott. Lamb Some Vu. We're all here. You're all here, and I greatly appreciate that. Again, this is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. Don't you know? That's your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Woo. Let me just sit here and compress for a second. Just so weird how everything went wrong today. Sorry, I won't reflect on that any further. Woodland Goblin says they need to get rid of Danny Dills. I hate to say it, but he's useless. Sean Mega says everyone should take the NWA Twitter account word first over Fight and Joe. Interesting. That's an interesting take. That is a very interesting take. When you said Joe, I thought you meant Samoa Joe. Lamb said, did the NWA even promote today's show? Actually, they did. They did this really cool stylized graphic where we saw like a green print press, something akin to what you would see in the 70s on a flyer. And they did a really good job of really putting out that information. It just, there was a lot of contradictory information. So like we saw that Jennacide in Melina, we saw photos of them in the ring, but then we read that Kenzie Paige would make her debut against Jennacide, and then later we see that it's Jennacide, Melina, and Kenzie Paige. Just little things like that make it kind of hard to follow. And as a fan of the National Wrestling Alliance, I mean, yes, I know that at 5:05 Eastern, 2:05 Pacific, if I go to Fight, I'm going to see some sort of NWA programming. But it would be nice to know what I'm getting into. Not that I'm not going to watch it anyways. Let's be honest. I'm going to watch the wrestling. But it'd be nice to know that, hey, so-and-so. Oh, hey. We got a new follow with Double J Edison 75. Unfortunately, I don't think we're on Twitch right now because I couldn't get the dang thing to work. But all that being said, it's very compelling, to say the least, of a card that we have for tonight. We have like I said, the aforementioned women's match. We have the debut of Colby Corino. I don't know if that's going to be an in-ring debut, but he will be making his debut in I don't want to say his debut in the arena because we saw him at the pre-show. We've seen him on Circled Square, but this will be his actual debut for NWA POWERRR. And then also, did you guys hear the news? I know you heard the news, right? Fred Rosser just announced via Twitter yesterday that he is now exclusive to New Japan Pro Wrestling of America. What does that mean? It means we're probably not going to get very many more Fred Rosser matches in the NWA. Now, during this brief time, Fred Rosser was a breath of fresh air, man. That guy literally was putting in work in every single match. He made it look crisp. He made it look clean. He brought a sense of professionalism to the ring. And I'm not saying that anyone else in the NWA isn't professional, but Fred Rosser's a guy who's been in, a veteran of Monday Night Raw. He's a former WWE Tag Team Champion. And seeing him in that role with the NWA as somebody who they used basically to just get guys over, it was kind of disappointing. I was really hoping that Fred Rosser would maybe be one of these guys who actually could become national champion. I mean, Lord knows he put in the work. You see him in his match with the Pope. You saw him wrestle in those same matches. He teamed with Marche Rocket against the tag team champions, and a few other matches that he had. He really was solid in the ring. And it's just, I don't know how the NWA, I guess it's not really up to them, right? I mean, if New Japan made an offer to keep him exclusive, I mean, there sure has to be some incentives for that. But it just goes to show you, right, that until wrestlers are locked up to contracts, that they're able to be poached. Now, granted, that's not the right term because, Rosser was working with the NWA first, but until these guys are locked up, there's an opportunity for somebody to come in and pick them up, whether it be the WWE, AEW. I mean, we're celebrating 1 year today that Ricky Starks announced his signing with AEW, and more so, just talent has that option. If they're not signed, that they could show up elsewhere. And that can be problematic when you film 12 weeks of television in the course of 3 or 4 days. By the end of that television taping, some of your talents might be elsewhere. So it's just something to think about, something to contemplate. Let's get to some of your comments. Doty says, it's the National Wrestling Alliance, not National Promo Alliance. Remember that, Billy. Truer words were never spoken, Doty. Good on you, sir. The mayor says he went over to Twitch because, some tech issues today with the Twitch. Now, I actually like having the ability to be on both Twitch and YouTube. I find that there's an audience also on Twitch that we can reach, but evidently I'm going to have to do some fine-tooth combing of Streamlabs because today it just didn't work. In fact, we couldn't even get onto YouTube, so we had to patch it in, and that's not normally how we do it, so I won't get into too many details, but this has been an absolute train wreck today. Sean Mega says, is Kratos next to go? See, the thing about that New Japan of America, and something we have to take into consideration, is they are currently using talents from around the country, right? Danny Limelight, who has been working with AEW, he's also been working with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, the United Wrestling Network. He's not under a specific contract, nor, Chris Dickinson, who's recently appeared in Ring of Honor, Tyler Bateman, Brody King. All of these guys are under Ring of Honor contract, yet we don't. I don't feel that New Japan of America will stop using them. They recently had TJ Perkins in, Rocky Romero, who's been all over the place lately, Impact, AEW. So I don't think a guy like Kratos you're going to have to worry too much about. He's currently a tag champion, so I'm sure there's some sort of contract, some sort of agreement worked out with he and Billy that before anything becomes exclusive, he would do the time-honored tradition and drop those titles. But, I mean, it's a good point. It could always happen. Terry McDermott says, can't blame Fred. He wants to make money. Well, absolutely. And that's the thing about wrestling, right? We can't blame any of the talents for taking the opportunities that are presented to them. 2 months ago when Samoa Joe was released, I was very vocal about hoping the NWA could find a way to bring Samoa Joe onto the roster. It sounds like he's heading back to WWE. It sounds like he's going to be in a non-wrestling role for the company. And I can't take anything away from Joe. Being able to provide for your family, being able to provide, for your kids, that's way more important than, chasing the 10 pounds of gold. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to feed your family. You got to take care of your family. That's what the whole business is about. But selfishly, I wish a lot of these guys were more available to the NWA, and it is what it is. Let me see. I'm just trying to keep up with your comments. Again, things are running a little bit different today. Everything is not working correctly, so I apologize if I'm looking down a lot. I'm just trying to catch up with your comments. Lamb said Rosser worked with the NWA first before the WWE, yes, but after in the pandemic he was on New Japan Strong since day one. Lamb, correct. You were absolutely right. Fred Rosser did do a few dates in the old Bruce Tharpe NWA era, but again, his loyalty should be to New Japan of USA, New Japan of America, I should say. There's certainly that relationship there, and it's been fun having him in the NWA, but again, until Billy locks these guys up under contracts, this is something that could happen over and over again. Let's see. Terry McDermott says, just like LA Knight. Yes, exactly. The mayor says, is New Japan USA different than... Yeah, so New Japan USA was what Dave Marquez was doing back in like 2004, 2005, maybe even 2003. That's a lot of the Inoki Dojo, the Santa Monica Dojo. That's different than what they're doing now. The New Japan of America is actually a completely different offshoot. Now, they do use the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood crew to help produce the show. I do believe Dave Marquez directs the show. I could be mistaken. But that show is different than what they used to do. Marquez does have an active role. He helped design the championship for New Japan Strong. But again, that's not his baby. He just works for them. In fact, the vice president of New Japan of America is Rocky Romero, and I believe he is the one that has that show set up. Dave Scooby says he's looking forward to Rudo, JTG, and roster match unless Alda shows up. I mean, this is the match that we should all be looking forward to. For one, it's going to be Fred Rosser's, I believe it's his last match for the NWA. But furthermore, we're going to see a more of Sam Adonis in the NWA known as Rudo, and more JTG. And JTG looked great at the pay-per-view when Our Shadows Fall. And I'm still waiting to see that breakthrough moment for Rudo. I want to see what's next for him. Should be good. Gosh, I'm trying to keep up with you guys. Sean Mega says, those companies have relationships with New Japan. NWA does not. This is true. This is true. The NWA doesn't have a literal relationship with the NWA. They do use some of the similar talents, like we said previously. Kratos is still working for both the NWA and New Japan Pro Wrestling. But that doesn't mean, like, in the past they've used New Japan talents. I mean, we knew that at the Crockett Cup 2019, we saw Yuji Nagata and Kojima both show up at the Crockett Cup, and they were under New Japan contracts. But I think that also had something to do with Ring of Honor, to be honest, so we'll just get past that. I see Jimmy LB's in the house. Matthew Underwood is here. Wish we could get a West Coast Wrecking Crew for the taping. I don't know that... I don't know how Billy operates. I don't know if Mr. Corgan is a guy that lets bygones be bygones, or if he holds on to grudges. I'm not sure how his MO is, but I think that when Royce Isaacs asked for his release, that Billy just was done with them. The West Coast Wrecking Crew is Royce Isaacs and his tag team partner, Jarrell Nelson. They actually are pretty phenomenal. They've started working for New Japan Strong. I love the tag team. They used to be called the 1% in FSW, and they've also worked out of West Coast Pro Wrestling in Oregon. They're a great tag team. Like to see more of them. But yeah, I'm not so sure you'll see either one of those guys in the NWA anytime soon. DKM's in the house. What's up, DK? Lamb says Billy Corgan had the chance to have the West Coast Wrecking Crew on the NWA before the pandemic, but he didn't want to bring in Jarrell Nelson. And the thing about Royce Isaacs, I mean, he's had a couple matches with AEW. He's had a few appearances there. He was a really important part of Strictly Business. He and Tom Latimer really took together quickly, and they had really great chemistry in the ring. And we haven't seen a lot of Adonis and Latimer in the ring together as a tag team. I mean, we've seen a few pieces of here and there, but Latimer and Isaacs really had something unique. That wild card, they were formed in the Battle Royal for the Crockett Cup, the wild card entrance is where they got their name. They were briefly, it looked like they were going to be managed by Medusa when she came out and kind of helped them advance in the matches, only to lose to Villains Enterprise. But they definitely had this great charisma and this great chemistry, and they'd only teamed together at that pay-per-view that one time they worked together. And it was so good that the NWA rolled with it, and when they had an opportunity to put the titles on the wild card from Ring of Honor, they took those tag titles off of Villain Enterprise, which was Brody King and PCO, and brought those titles back to the NWA. And then, of course, Power kicked off, and we never looked back. But, I kind of wish going back in time, we could have had more Brody King and PCO versus Tom Latimer and Royce Isaacs. And I wish that Royce Isaacs was still around in this NWA as it is currently, because he would have been a great choice to pursue that television title, especially against the Pope. I think you would have had some really good matches. But again, during the pandemic, a lot of these guys needed opportunities, and they couldn't take advantage of opportunities that were presented because of the deals that they had. Allison Kay was very vocal about that, and that she had opportunities to work outside of the NWA, but couldn't because of the way her contract was written. So, yeah, I really hope to see how things go down the road for the NWA. But I mean, here in California, I mean, the mask mandate is over. If you're vaccinated, you're free as a bird, baby. We're allowed to go to restaurants without facial coverings. We don't need to social distance anymore. Baseball parks are opening up to full capacity. Theme parks are opening up to full capacity. And as this rolls out across the entire United States, it's only a foregone conclusion that the NWA will be out touring. I feel it in my bones. I know that that's what the plan was prior to the global pandemic. And now that things are under control here in the United States, or as they become more in control in the United States, you're going to see the NWA on the road. That was the plan initially. So we'll see how that works out, of course, which means they're going to need to fill out that roster a bit more, which is probably why they opted not to retire the national championship and bring that back to Power. So we'll see how that works out too. DCam said the temperature. I don't really know what he means, but maybe someone asked him what's up. Terry McDermott says he would like to see a Russian team. Well, remember we had the Koloff dynasty, which was gosh, I can't remember the gentleman's name. A former NWA national champion and Dean something or other, and then the former Anarchy heavyweight champion. Gosh, both of the names escape me right now, but both of those guys would be a welcomed addition to the NWA roster, especially if you could pull off Nikita Koloff managing them full time. That would be just tremendous. But I don't know that that's going to happen. Matthew Underwood says, Liberty, what a concept. I'm hoping to go to St. Louis. Yes, you guys got me. Tyson Dean, absolutely. Tyson Dean and Jeffrey Neil Lewis, or Neil Jeffrey Lewis, something like that. What's up, Willie? Welcome to the show. Yeah, I mean, those guys would be great in the NWA. Willie corrected me, not national champion, North American champion. You're right, Willie. You got me. You got me. I'm sleeping today. I don't know what's going on. But regardless of all that, the Koloffs will be a terrific addition to this roster. Again, we're starting to see the tag teams kind of start getting a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for, opportunity. I mean, we're seeing more and more of the tag teams, and you know, you've got The End, you've got La Rebellion, which is Bestia 666 and Mecha Wolf 450. So you're seeing, and then you have, did I say The End? You have the War Kings, you have Kratos and Stevens, and so more tag teams is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if this show starts getting out on the road. Lamb told me to drink some more water. I think I need more water. I think I need a vacation. That's coming soon. But yeah, so any more additional challengers to those tag team titles? I mean, sure, there needs to be more opportunity for these guys to wrestle. Again, 45 minutes a week isn't enough time to showcase every title in the NWA. But I think if given the opportunity, if they start going on the road, you're going to see more and more matches. That would make a lot more sense. Some of your comments, let's see. Is the tag division going the right direction? No more throwing guys together and let them beat real teams? I didn't say that, Lamb. Don't put words in my mouth. This booking, a lot of the booking in the NWA doesn't make a lot of sense to me as of yet. And And some of the things that I've read and seen, I don't know that it's going to continue to make a lot of sense to me. I'm willing to let the story play out, but I've heard there's going to be a lot of contradictory information as the weeks come by. Matthew says, I'd be interested in the new structure of NWA contracts with the Fight TV money. Matthew, I don't know that there's a lot of contracts involved with the NWA right now. I think most of these guys work on a per appearance deal, and there's a handshake agreement that some of them will be back, but I don't think there's a long-term commitment to anyone not named Nick Aldis or probably Kamille. We know that Thunder Rosa has a deal that she's locked up until the end of the year, but I think she's the only one who doesn't have a title who's kind of locked up. Let's see. Matthew Underwood says the tag division is the best part of the NWA right now. And Jimmy LB says that's ironic considering where it was earlier this season. I don't know if I want to give that, if I want to say that. I don't know if I want to say that the tag division is the best part of the NWA right now. I mean, surely that women's division is looking better and better every week. You've got that TV title division. I mean, that's the cleanest, most direct, less bullshit, sorry for the rough language, in the NWA right now. Because once about a week or so, you get a qualifying match where a guy or two guys or three guys will wrestle, and the winner of that match will have an opportunity to face the Pope. If they're victorious, they put an end to the Pope's Lucky 7 series, and they start over. So far, the Pope has been victorious in all these matches, and it's been really refreshing to see him wrestle against guys like Fred Rosser, against Luke Hawk, against Matt Cross. I mean, you put the names that the Pope has defeated as TV champion, and to me, it's more impressive than the names that Nick Aldis has defeated since Power's been on the air. I really feel like the Pope is really making a push to not only make that television title legitimate, but also to make himself a legitimate challenger for the 10 pounds of gold. Don't think anyone could argue with me on that one. Matthew Underwood says Hawk Ari will have the belts within a year. I'm not against that. That boy PJ Hawk can wrestle. I've always been a fan of Luke Hawk ever going back to his days with Wrestling Society X. That's where he really caught on with me. I didn't really catch XPW, but seeing him in Wrestling Society X and seeing him grow from Altar Boy Luke to Luke Hawk, it was pretty good. And I think that Luke Hawk, in his current form right now, could be a worthy title holder for either the television or the national championship. But his son, he's dangerous. He can mix that collegiate style wrestling that he was a state champion, for crying out loud, and then he mixed that with the pro wrestling, the Southern style that his father's taught him, and his own finesse, his own ability to mix in some high flying. That kid is gonna be good, and I think he's only like 20 years old, 22 years old, something like that. He's gonna be good. All right, more of your comments. Willie Bowen says NWA Power should focus more on all three titles plus the people who hold them. The problem with that, Willie, is there's just not enough time. Again, 45 minutes a week has been about the average of each episode of Power, and that's only 3 times a month. Then we get the 4th episode, which is Power Surge, which could be anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes, and again, they feature one match, and it usually isn't a title match. Power Surge, to me, I almost think that's where they should be showcasing the television title, or maybe that's where they showcase the national title, because it would be a more rare occurrence to have that defended. But maybe every Power Surge you would have a national champion title defense. Kind of would make it feel a little bit more special. But then again, that doesn't solve the problem of having 5 different champion title holders on your television every week and not having an opportunity to showcase them. You've got the World's Heavyweight Championship, you got the Burke, the television title, the national title, and then the tag team champions. There just isn't enough time in a week, in a month, to showcase all those titles. That's why, to me, it would be okay if the national title kind of did not get filled and left vacant for a while. But that's neither here nor there. Ron Gibson is in the house. Welcome, Ron. Appreciate you being here. Terry says, I wish the NWA would set up a promotion in Tulsa. At one time, wrestling was popular in that area. Absolutely. The NWA isn't really looking to set up a territory system. They just aren't. When Billy Corgan purchased the NWA, it was at a time where it was fortunately very easy to just galvanize the entire brand. Up until Bruce Tharpe, the NWA was a collective of promoters. That's why they always use that phrase, that governing body, right? Because Dave Marquez owned NWA Hollywood, but he had no claim in sole ownership of the National Wrestling Alliance. He was a member who bought into his area, but until Bruce Tharpe sued the National Wrestling Alliance, got control of the NWA, and changed the whole course from a group of owners to a three-man ownership group that got pruned down to two and then one. Bruce Tharpe was the first time any single person owned the NWA. So when he sold to Billy, he literally was the first person to, as a collective, take the NWA down to one person. And that never would happen before. And that's why when Jim Crockett Promotions left the National Wrestling Alliance, you still had an NWA. You still had promoters in Portland, Oregon, or you still had promoters in Dallas, Texas, or still had promoters in New Jersey. All these guys were still wrestling and putting on NWA matches, although they weren't associated with Jim Crockett Promotions. But the minute that Tharpe got control of the company and pruned that ownership down to just himself, that was it. He had the ability to sell the company, to fold the company, whatever he chose to do. And luckily he found Billy Corgan to buy the NWA. Now it's Billy's discretion what to do with it. It seems like we will see the NWA as a singular promotion going forward, but I mean, of course, that could always change. Dave Scooby says, if the all-women's pay-per-view is successful, should the NWA replace Power Surge with an all-women show once a month? Dave Scooby, that is genius, my friend. I think that's an excellent idea. Let's be honest, Power Surge is fine. Power Surge is good for what it is. But if you were able to put Power Surge on YouTube, it would be insanely popular. If you look at the numbers on YouTube, I mean, the pre-show, which didn't get to air when it was supposed to because of tech issues, had over, the last time I checked, had over 6,000 views on it. Now, I know that's not huge numbers, but it was far and away bigger than anything else the NWA channel had been producing. No disrespect to the boys in the Bearded Trio, but it turns out wrestling fans want to watch wrestling. And again, no disrespect to my friends, but a post-show is never going to have as big of an audience as an actual wrestling show. And if they took what Power Surge is at its core, a recap show with one new wrestling match, and moved that to YouTube, and then took that time on Fight to introduce just a women's show, I think that'd be very, very smart. The only problem with that, the only caveat of that is, now do you still include the women's wrestling on the regular Power episodes? Or does this Girl Power, whatever they call it, remember they had that as a podcast for a brief moment, does Girl Power simply exist outside of the NWA? Outside of Power, I should say. That's something that I'm sure the executives, Billy and the people that he's put in charge, that's a decision for them to make. But I mean, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Let's see more of your comments. Terry McDermott is talking about the spoilers. Shh, don't tell. Ron Gibson says he's sorry that he's late. Oh, Ron, you're always welcome. Anytime. We've got about 20 minutes left of the show, so you didn't miss anything. Doty says, do you think Lagana and Marquez contributed so much in the drop of NWA's booking quality? Short answer, yes. Yes. I feel like under the old regime, when Lagana was vice president of the NWA, I felt like there was a different process in place. It just has to be, because some of the storylines, although outlandish, no pun intended, it felt somewhat grounded. A lot of these Billy bookings, and this is Billy's show. He's the one that's writing this. So some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. Like the Masked Man, I didn't quite get that. I don't know why that was so prevalent that they put that on the show. And I get it that the only reason why they had a live read for the merchandise was so that this mystery Masked Man could interrupt. But what was the point of it? What did we get out of it? Nothing. Not a damn thing. And a lot of people have already figured out the true identity of the Masked Man. We're not going to say that here on the show, but I mean, it's already out there. It didn't take long for the internet detectives of the world to figure it out. So, I mean, what are we going to pretend like we don't know who he is now for the next 11 weeks? It just doesn't make sense. Now, Sean says people like the Masked Man, and that's cool. Look, if it's who I've heard it is, he's going to be a great addition to the roster. We're going to see something different with him. And when you put him in the ring with guys like Luke Hawk or the Pope or Matt Cross if he returns, like, you're going to get some great matches out of this guy. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. That segment was ridiculous. Most of the segments last week were ridiculous. Did we need a coronation ceremony for the women's champion? Tell me, when was the last time they did any kind of coronation ceremony for any champion on NWA Power? I mean, it wasn't long ago Thunder Rosa won the title. Did they do a coronation ceremony for her? Did they do one for the Pope? Did they do one for Chris Adonis? No. It was pointless, a waste of time, and honestly, a little bit insulting. Now, if you enjoy that kind of content, great, man. You might want to check out ABC, because there's a lot of soap operas that used to air on ABC that you might enjoy. But for me, personally, this wasn't entertaining. It was garbage. It was crap. It was a sack of shit. Pardon my language, I'm kind of in a foul mood. I normally don't like to talk so abrupt on here, but it was just it wasn't doing anything for me. And if you enjoyed it, that's cool, man. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because someone has to. But for me personally, there was too much of this last week. Now, if we're going to get the wrestling that we're supposed to get, terrific. And Dave brings up a good point. WWE does the coronation stuff. They do that crap. That's what they do. This is supposed to be the alternative. If I wanted to watch WWE programming, I would go pay my $5.99 a month to Peacock, and then get to also watch all the old episodes of The Office. Would you like to form an alliance with me? Let's see. Matthew Underwood said that soft on the second story of local mall was sick. PJ Hawk got a lot of notoriety for that dive. Of course, his dad's a stuntman. They set that up. They knew exactly what they were doing. They did that just ahead of their debut on the NWA. I think it was smart. Had that circled square gone to completion, you definitely would have had that. You definitely would have seen more of that. It was awesome, and I liked it a lot. Sean Mega says, there's no hope for the NWA. Billy's stuck in his ways. I don't think so. See, Sean, I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is because we just had a really good pay-per-view. A very solid pay-per-view. This formula that they're using right now, I don't think is beneficial to them. I think at some point they're going to need to figure out that they don't need to ramp up and ramp down. They need to get at this level. You know, if the pay-per-view is going to be here, that's fine. We don't need to jump down here. We need to go back here and stay around here. These episodes where it gets talk heavy, I think that kills momentum. And maybe that's what they want to do so that they can ramp back up again. But honestly, if you're paying $5 a month, that means in an 11-week period, you're paying $15 to see this. And you shouldn't have to pay for the episodes that are garbage. My opinion, only my opinion. The mayor says, let me say it first. Murdoch gets his rematch at the 73rd in St. Louis. Harley smiles down on us, and Aldis drops the belt for a couple months. Hey, Mayor, if that happens, I think there'd be plenty of reasons to celebrate. Again, I'm not anti-Aldis. I'm just anti the monotony. I'm not feeling like at any given moment Aldis is really in any peril. You know, one of the cool things about Adam Pearce and his run as world's heavyweight champion is he would go to Virginia and face Damian Wayne. He would go to West Virginia and face the Maestro. And I know you guys are saying, hey, these guys are never NWA champions, and I get that. but there was always this feeling that a title change could happen. It could happen. And it didn't happen. Damian Wayne never got that title shot, but it was very palpable and believable and palatable that he could. And the fact that he never did was a crying shame, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel that way when I see Nick Aldis wrestle. I don't feel like he was ever in peril against Aaron Stevens. I don't think that he was going to drop the title to Jason Strife or to Brian Pillman or to Nobi Bryant. And that's not to say anything negative about these guys. They had good matches, but I'm just saying, like, the champ has never been in peril. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it certainly gets boring. And if you're watching this show to be entertained, then it should be entertaining. You should be able to enjoy yourself. And I just don't feel like they're there with that. Let's see. Stan's in the house. What's up, Stan? Erlinda Martinez says, "You go, Jay." Thank you, Erlinda. I appreciate that. Stan says the coronation ceremony was a throwback to a Jim Cornette segment or two back in the 1980s. It just didn't seem, it fell flat, Stan. It felt flat. Ron says, if they ever bring back the Junior Heavyweight Championship, I say Matt Cross wins it, but I want Jason Kincaid to challenge him. I want, you know who I want to challenge him? Danny Limelight. Why don't we bring in the Bodega? Matthew Underwood says, Kamille should main event every show this season, build her up and the true division for the pay-per-view. I think that Kamille is solid. I loved how Joe Galley kept saying, you did it right, Kamille, you did it right. And the NWA is going to be put in a weird position because Camille's going to be pushed as a babyface before long. She's going to get pushed because you can't stop it. You know, Thunder Rosa was supposed to be a heel when she came to the NWA too, but the fans made her a face. It's going to happen. And then you're going to have this weird situation with Strictly Business and Kamille and all this other stuff. It'll be interesting to say the least. Dodie says, Sam Munchnick, Larry Mystique, and the Chase crowd will hate a coronation ceremony as the main event for a wrestling show. One thing's for sure. Yeah, I don't think Harley Race would have signed off on that one if it was World Legion Wrestling. Look, I get it. It's a TV show. They need to have moments to call back on. They need to have this moments of levity. But seeing Nick Aldis in a tuxedo and, you know, bowing in front of Kamille, that just didn't do it for me. It's not good wrestling. Sean Mega says, not trying to watch another New Japan Strong either. I'm not exactly sure the layout, the format of New Japan Strong. I don't watch it, but I'm very tempted to order. It's on Fight. They do the similar program to what Primetime Live was. It's like $7.99. You get 4 episodes. That breaks down to like less than $2 an episode. That to me isn't a bad investment at all if you enjoy that style of wrestling. And they've recently been featuring guys who I do enjoy, like Chris Dickinson, Danny Limelight, Satoshi Kojima's on there, Kratos, Fred Rosser. I mean, that New Japan Strong roster is very solid, and you know, I know it's in terms of their size, they're comparable to, you know, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, but the names that they're using are much bigger than the typical indies. And I mean, I forgot about all the Ring of Honor guys like Brody King and Tyler Bateman, and so yeah, to me, it's a pretty fun show. I'm really seriously considering getting on board with it. Stan says Matt Cross had an amazing match with Nick Aldis. Yeah, we've talked about that, Stan. That's Matt Cross. Nick Aldis even said was one of his favorite opponents. It would be nice to see him get to that level, but of course, the way Power books him, it'll never happen. Sean Mega says we need a mix of wrestling and promos with characters. Absolutely, Sean, you're 100% right. I'm not taking away from that. I don't mind telling stories. I don't mind having gimmicks. I don't mind promos. But the main event being a coronation ceremony, come on, even you have to admit that's a bit corny. And Chris Drummond says the NWA needs less of Nick Aldis. Ron Gibson says, I remember Kevin Steen and Luke Hawk had a heck of a feud back in the day. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Ron says, oh, hell yeah, the Bodega, I love him. Bodega's solid. DKM says Jim Cornette had a couple of celebration segments that normally ended with him being embarrassed and set up a feud. That didn't happen, right? They had Melina go out there, and then Jennacide came out. Now, that's interesting, but it didn't do a whole lot. We don't know what's going on, and I get it. The storytelling, it'll tell you more, but, I mean, that doesn't hook me. That doesn't make me want to see the next Jennacide match. It doesn't make me want to see the next Melina match. It just makes me wonder why they're wasting my time with that whole segment when they could have put in another TV title match. They could have put in another tag team title match. Something. Anything. Dodie wants them to win at the Chase and then drop it to the Pope instead of all this. Now you're talking. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. And Pope can go, I mean, he can be heel or face. He could transition very easily. The way he is right now is not very different from where he was when he was looking for his Fa Hossman. So we'll see how that goes. Ron says, do you think that they will take the whole Coronation thing because all this is British, so every power alliance always becomes faux monarchy stuff? I mean, that's certainly a possibility. I just think, again, it's pointless. It's redundant. It's silly. It's goofy. They don't do it for Adonis. They didn't do it for Pope. They didn't do it for Kratos and Stevens. Is it because she's a woman? They didn't do it for Thunder Rosa or Serena Deeb. It's what it is strictly business flexing that they could take time away from actual wrestling. That should make them bigger heels, not celebrated. Matthew Underwood asks, do I think Stevens is actually going to break from Kratos? I mean, it's hard to tell. I feel like they should, but I felt like they should have done that on episode 1. I feel like they should have been feuding by now and already going their separate ways. But it's hard to tell. I mean, they had some good team moments at When Your Shadows Fall. They were working together. There's some tag team continuity, but you just never know. Willie Bowen says, anyone remember when James J. Dillon got a suit ripped off from him, then James J. Dillon was wearing women's lingerie? I mean, Willie, I don't want to think about that, but sure, that's always a possibility, I guess. Matthew says, is the title division hampered more by the time limit or the Lucky 7 rule? 100% the time limit. The 6:05 time limit hurts it because it's hard to have a credible main event for a television show when it's only physically allowed to go 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Personally, I think if they ditched that rule, made it 10:05 or 10 minutes or something along those lines, you could slide Pope into the main event on most of these shows, and that TV title champion, whomever it is, whether it be the Pope or Tyrus or whomever, I think adds more legitimacy to the championship and makes it that much more entertaining. So for me, the Lucky 7 rule is actually a reason to care about it. Where the national title, it's, quote unquote, supposed to be the number one contender, the TV title gives you an absolute path to the World's Heavyweight Championship. And, you've got Nick Aldis worried about what's going to happen with Trevor Murdoch, but what he really should be worried about is the TV champion. And he keeps hollering that, if Pope wasn't running, Latimer would be champion. But to be honest, Latimer didn't get the job done. And the Pope is still here racking up wins, getting ever closer to 7. That's where the storyline should be right now. I mean, I get Trevor Murdoch should be still in consideration because he was screwed at the pay-per-view, but at the end of the day, Pope in that TV title has a surefire path to the World's Heavyweight Championship, to the 10 pounds of gold. Dodie says, all those stupid stuff from Cornette and Dillon happens in the South, not St. Louis, which they'll go in August. Sam was a very conservative promoter and definitely won't allow things like that on his show. There you go. I mean, that's true. That's very true. Stan says NWA Power is reminiscent of the old World Championship Wrestling show. That's done by design. They wanted to look just like that Jim Crockett era. They wanted you to buy into that. Nostalgia sells, and it works very well. Willie B says wrestling in St. Louis, Missouri at the Kiel Auditorium had great matches. I mean, absolutely. Again, you're talking about all this great history, rich in tradition of the NWA. The bottom line is every territory was different, and not everything was super serious all the time. But I think there's a time and place for everything, and if Power wants to lend itself to be a little bit more comedic and have a little bit more silliness, that's fine. Just it gets harder to take things serious when we're supposed to. When it's all about the levity of, all this bowing down to his Kamille, the queen of women's wrestling, it's hard to take it serious when you have Trevor Murdoch telling the camera that he's going to win for Harley Race or that he failed, and it just messes things up as far as I'm concerned. Ron Gibson says Corgan should bring in Puff as the son of Jerry Blackwell. I'm not familiar with Puff. You'll have to enlighten me. Send me a message on Twitter, Ron, because I'm not sure who that is. Stan says he's got to go. Hey, thanks for checking it out, Stan. I do appreciate you being here every week. In fact, I appreciate all of you guys being here every week. This is the pre-party where we get you pumped up for NWA POWERRR, which is about to start in about 10 minutes. So we'll wrap this show up so that you guys have plenty of time to get over to Fight. If you haven't already ordered it, it's $4.99 for 4 weeks of wrestling and access to all the old pay-per-views. Not all of them, but a select few. Certainly worth your money if you're a fan of this wrestling show. If you're a fan of this podcast and you want to see what we're talking about, you don't watch it, go sign up for it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Hey, welcome to the show, Rosville. I don't think I've seen you on before. I do think 10 minutes and 5 seconds would be great for the TV title matches. If you're enjoying this podcast and you would like to rep our gear, you want to have one of these Alliance shirts, you can just head out to our merch store. That's alliance-wrestling.com and hit the merch button. We're currently selling the Ham Sandwich Jabroni t-shirts for a limited time. All proceeds from those sales will go to Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund. The walk, which will be happening in November, my family will be taking part of it. Anybody that buys one of those t-shirts, that money goes directly to that. So I can't thank you enough if you've already purchased one of those shirts, or if you choose to purchase one. Again, really appreciate that. But if you don't want to spend any of your hard-earned cash, and who could blame you, I just appreciate you following the show, hitting the like button, subscribing, and getting all the news and information at alliance-wrestling.com. You could also follow us on all social medias, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, of course Twitch, which we're normally on, but we're not right now, and of course here at YouTube. All of it's at the Alliance Blog. You can find us everywhere at the Alliance Blog. So that's going to do it, guys. Again, so much of my week is enjoyable because of what we do here. This community that we have, the NWA fam, the hashtag Talk NWA crowd. You guys make this week so much enjoyable. This show started off so rough because I was having tech issues. You guys lifted me up. You hooked your boy Jay up, and I'm grateful for you. So until next time, we'll be here Thursday night to watch, or to recap the show that you're going to watch right now. And of course, if you prefer to listen to these podcasts instead of look at our handsome faces, you can check us out at the Alliance Blog on iTunes or the Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, Spotify, and all your other podcasting places. Oh, and Ron Gibson, happy birthday, brother. Happy birthday to you. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Good night now.